Don't try to walk in with agency talk. Walk in or marketing talk. Walk in with plumber talk. Walk in with window treatment talk and let them and see if they can meet you. Right.
Welcome to the Strategic Thinkers podcast. I've been bringing on a series of guests, and these are all people that I get to have great conversations with. I get to pick their brain. And what I wanted to be able to do was actually bring them on and ask them the questions that I would normally ask, or we talk shop and actually allow you to be a fly on the wall so that you get to hear and benefit from the insights and the strategies and tactics that they're using with their clients and things that you can actually benefit from. So, I really focus this on an audience working their way up to six figures. So small business owners where they get to six figures and beyond. Once you're up there, then you have to figure out how to be able to stay there. So this is a great person to be able to have a conversation with because we're going to talk about online presence and all the different things that come attached to it. So it's not just SEO; it's just making sure that people know how to be able to find you online. One of the things that we always talk about is there are technically 11 touch points that you need to cover to be able to work someone through the full customer journey. So what we're going to be covering are some of those touch points, some of the things that you can put in place so that people not only get to find out who you are, but they get to decide whether or not they know, like, and trust you. And you get to decide whether they're a good client or a red flag client. So we'll cover that and then we'll cover collaborations and partnerships. Sometimes you outsource work to people and you need to make sure that you're outsourcing it to the right person. You need to make sure that you're getting back the information that's actually allowing you to grow, not just stay where you're at. So with that, I'm going to say welcome, bruh. Wendell, thank you so much for being here. I think this is going to be a good one. And I'm excited to have you kind of walk people through things because there's a lot that they don't know that they need to know. And I think you're going to be able to answer a lot of those questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate the invitation. I want to be funny for a moment because that's what I'm most known for. You said no, like, and trust. I remember when I was first introduced to that phrase professionally.
Hmm.
It, it was by a guy who was a glorified consultant running ads who no one knew, and he was likable, but you couldn't trust him. So, like, that phrase always resonates with me. Every time people say it, I remember that guy, right? And yeah, like, these people got to know, like, and trust you. And he was not a person to be trusted. Just
I
random
appreciate that.
funniness. Anytime I hear it, I think that's when I started smiling. The no, like, and trust, because it's a true statement. But he made it sour in my mind, truly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he might say two out of three isn't bad, but it really depends on who you ask on that one. You know how that
Yeah,
goes.
right.
Uh, yeah, you know what? I think it's really important. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to be able to have you on is because people don't know what questions to ask. They don't know what they need to know in order to be able to find the right person to be able to help them with things. They don't know if that person is trustworthy or not. And one of the things that I wanted to be able to talk about was the ability to not only earn trust, but to be able to gain it and hold on to it once you have it. So let's get started. I know you work on SEO, but you also have a wealth of knowledge from just not just your business, but in collaborating with other businesses and sharing your expertise. What stood out to me was you gauge the level of understanding your clients want to have and then customize the experience to suit their needs. So, can you talk about your approach to those different types of client relationships?
Sure. So I think that goes hand in hand with the trust, right? Being an SEO, right? Starting off as a full service agency, doing everything from web design to graphic design, even dabbled in ads for like a moment or two. The thing that always resonated was how do we present this information back to the client, right? That's why we don't run ads anymore because ad information is tough. You need somebody who really knows what they're doing. Wasn't in my skill set. When I opened up this rabbit hole of SEO and pivoted into being solely an SEO agency, I think one of the biggest things was understanding that talking to other agencies who said that they did SEO in house, they couldn't really give me anything tangible that was offered to their client, right? Which honestly was scary to me because I thought I was doing either A, too much, right? Like, I'm like, so
Hmm.
maybe I'm providing too much service and I should be charging way more. But what I eventually figured out in talking to more agencies and acquiring more clients was that it's really just a disconnect, right? So things as simple as I'll go client side first. I had a conversation with a prospect earlier today, and I don't think that she's going to be a good fit budget wise. But I spent probably 15 minutes talking to her about her domain, and it's not working from her Google Business profile, right? Like, that's that's a uh, that's a trust point, right? So when she does have the budget, she's gonna come to me before she goes to somebody else, just because I spent the time walking her through stuff. She she does not own a domain. She's using a dot so and so dot com domain, right? Yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And she said she spoke to someone and they told her that she needed to rebuild her website and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I asked her why, right?
Mhm.
And I didn't say no. I said why, and she explained to me that they told her she needed something more professional, right? And I was like, okay, well, the platform that you're in is okay. I think maybe where they were trying to lead you to is the fact that you don't have your own domain, right? Do you have a domain? Do you not know how to attach it? And because we used to be full service, there are times where I lend my hand in other parts of the marketing world, just because I understand what it means to have no clue what's going on, and the only thing you know how to do really well is run your business, right? I think that same thing pivots over to our agencies that we work with as well, because some of our agencies, one of my biggest agency partners, man, they are so good at web design that they put us out of business, right? Like, they are the reason why we don't do web design anymore. Like, literally, I got to watch what they did, and I was like, yeah, I'm not this good, right? Like, this is not,
Okay,
we're not creating this quality of a product, nor are we creating this quality of user experience, right? So as far as on the back end, right, is the deliverables and everything else, everything is just so systematic. But the thing that they lacked was the understanding of SEO, right? So they were using,
okay,
I like to call them SEO farms, right? So I'm okay with naming a few names, right? Like, so like a Rev Local, or I know a place
mhm,
called Thrive. Some of those places where they've got an account executive and then a business development executive or a
yeah,
business development person, right? So, like, there's two or three people that you're going to talk to that don't do anything with your website, right? And they were outsourcing to that, right? To one of those places.
mhm,
And the difficulty you have with the farms, man, is there's no personal touch. It's a cookie cutter model. It doesn't matter what they got going on. And again, it's the same thing, meeting our clients, right? The agencies where they are as well, right? 'Cause one of the things that we've learned in having those conversations with agencies, we got to be able to be client facing, right? Whatever shirt I got to put on, the so and so, agency shirt, we do it so that I'll say, responsible for my part of the job, right? I'm not leaving it for Sean to interpret what he heard to now tell somebody else what he think he heard, right? Because that's how understanding works, right? You can only explain things the way you understand them. So
right.
yeah, I mean, it's been an awesome process, right? I wouldn't trade it for the world. I told another client earlier today, he was asking me about working with me on some stuff because I was able to explain it a little differently than my agency than our agency partner was, right? And he's like, "Well, how come? Why do I have to talk to them instead of you?" Because I don't do it, right? Like, I'm not. I can explain it to you, but those are not, those don't fit into my job description, right? Like, I'm not the all for one guy anymore, right? I do one job and one job really well. That's it. If that makes sense.
No, it definitely makes sense. I know when I started out, because I've had a lengthy career and I learned how to be able to do a lot of different things. I went in being that one stop kind of shop, and one of the things that I realized along the way was there were things that I love doing that I would do for free, and then there are those things that it is work because it's not necessarily my expertise. So it takes me longer to be able to get that stuff done. And like you said, I stopped doing web design because I realized it's something that I was doing web design, but I was doing web design because I was building a strategy around the whole process of building a website. The website was just a part of what we were doing, but what I was really doing was setting up, okay, well, here's what you're going to do leading up to building a website. Here's what you're going to do after the website. The website just happened to be part of the process, but I was doing a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And what I realized was I wasn't focusing on the things that mattered to me, and I wasn't giving them the best level of things. So I could give them a starter site, but if it came to planning things out, I would rather focus on the strategy and allow somebody that's a web designer or a developer really build out all the things, and that's where the collaboration kicks in. So I think it's important to play to your strengths. I've definitely been the one-stop shop. I've been the one-stop shop that did more than what a lot of other people did. One of the things that stood out to me was you're saying you talk to someone and you realize it can go either way. It can either be something where you realize, wow, you're not really doing anything at all, like the farms. And then there's the ones where you talk to someone and you realize, like, oh man, you're going above and beyond. So there are the people that say, you know what, I'm good with being somewhere in the middle. Um, I wasn't put here to be mediocre. So for me, my thing is I want to do what I'm really, really good at. And for the things that I'm not good at, I'm humble enough to be able to say that's not really my expertise. And what you said, like I can explain it to you. I can tell you
Mhm.
what it is that they're doing and what you should be asking and things like that. But when it comes to actually doing the work, I think it's a bit different. I think it's something where that's where you earn that level of trust to be able to say, you know what, could I do it? Sure. Am I the best
Exactly.
person to be able to do it? Probably not. And what I can do, and this is one of the things that we'll talk about networking wise, is I can put you in contact with someone that can take care of that part. So
That's my
I'm a
favorite
big
part now.
right. Those
Yeah, that's my
referrals
favorite part.
when you can
Yeah.
hand someone over to someone to say no, this person is going to be able to answer everything that you need to be able to cover. So you do a lot of that. You're not just someone that is working with clients. It's these relationships that you're able to build and the network that you put in place to really be able to say, okay, just because I have my strengths and you have your strengths, there are those people that want to do the all in one, but they could really be really good at something and allow themselves to partner with someone else that is really good at another part. And you don't have to run the whole process. You can just be really good at that one part. And I think
Mhm.
that's one of the things that stands out to me as far as what you're doing. You build trust because you're not trying to do everything. You're focusing on the things that you know, and then you put people in contact with the people that can do those other things as far as the phases of where they're at and where they want to go.
Speaking to things that we enjoy and don't enjoy. My highest paying contract was social media management to date, right? Like they was paying me by themselves, I think about 3 grand a month. It was
Okay.
awesome. It was in my earlier days of starting my own agency. I had just relocated to Houston, and it was awesome. The money was, but the effort was. I would say I was probably making $20 an hour, right? Like that's how much time that's how much time it was taking me in order to put these posts together. And then, there's the back and forth. Like the thing that I explain to people now is there's no subjectivity in what I do, right? Like we
Mhm.
deal in matter of fact to an extent, of course, right? Because it is marketing, but are we wearing the same color blue right now? That's a design question, right? I don't want to know. It's fine. I'll send you to someone else. Yeah, it's fine. That can tell you which blue is better or the same. I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. So like that, I just want to reiterate that because it is an important thing in business, and I think that even when you speak to, right, to bring it back around to what to your opening statement of online presence, it has been a complete 180 in how many places I can put myself because I'm not a one stop shop, right? So
Mhm.
I'm not my voice doesn't get lost in the crowd of one stop shops, right? And then the other part of it is people put me places because they know this is the only thing that I do. They're not confused. They're not sure if I'm. Do you do graphic design? No, I don't do graphic design. But this is the guy for online presence, right? This is the guy that you need to talk to if you want to do A, B, or C. And that has allowed for me to be able to be in more, I'll say, virtual rooms, right? Like virtual spaces,
Right.
and offer more opportunity for me to be able to get my business name out there. Just because we are very singular and exacting in what we do, as opposed to if you need it, we got it. Because we don't anymore.
No, I dig it. I think that's an important point. I know part of what I've been talking about are just for regular entrepreneurs and people that are either early stage trying to figure it out, or even the seasoned ones where they're trying to scale and they're trying to rebrand or figure out their next move. And then segue into the flip side of that, where there are those poachers that will come in and say, "Well, I can do this better." And you had a funny story. Well, it was funny to me. I don't think it was funny to the client, but you had a funny story about the RV park owner who decided that they saw a new shiny thing, and that person had a very good sales process. And that kind of goes back to the no like trust. They were really good for knowing and liking how to be able to sell something, but it wasn't really somebody you could trust. Can you tell us a bit about that story about how their rankings plummeted after switching from the service to another provider?
So it actually happened twice, right? So the first time,
Oh,
I was relatively new with them, right, and we were making some
mhm,
headway. I'll get my humble brag out the way first. Where average position is 6 for the keywords that they're currently tracking.
Hmm.
When I first started
Nice.
working with them, same group of keywords, maybe give or take a few, they were like in the 60s, right? It's like we made a complete 180 on the traffic that comes to that site. And the owner is he's a very, very, very dear person. My birthday is this weekend, matter of fact. He found someone. I don't know. Actually, they found him. They told him that his Google business profile was lacking reviews, right? And they were supposed to find reviews, and I'm like, well, you can't find them, right? They have to come from your clients. They have to come from the people who've been at the RV park. He eventually lost that connection with that guy because the way he was getting his reviews on like a Fiverr or something like that, the guy's account got suspended. So he could no longer provide the service. And that was actually the aha moment for my client because he was like, wait, so his account got suspended. And when he originally told me, the person told him as though it was some sort of malicious thing, right? Like, I don't know why they
Hmm.
suspended my account. And I explained to him, he's like, oh, I said, yeah, remember I was telling you that you're not supposed to just go buy reviews? Yeah, like those sites don't let people sell buying reviews because it's against every reviewing site's policy. Um, it what I used to tell him at that time was my feelings are hurt because I worked so hard. This has become my baby. I have worked so hard to get this thing shiny and pretty, and you want to just run it through the mud because somebody told you it was a shortcut, right? That's why
Hmm.
my feelings are hurt. I understand that, but go ahead, right? I know that what we do is good, so I am confident enough to believe that whatever someone else tells you they're going to do, it's not gonna change the way that they tell you it is, right? Otherwise, we would already be doing it, right? So it was an interesting, and that was really my first time getting
I mean,
again.
that's really good.
Yeah, I was again. It's another one of them humble brag moments because when we got back into the top 25, I'm like, you sure you want to call them? Because I'm sure they'll take some more of your money. Nah,
Hmm.
I was just trying it out. You make such a big deal. I'm like, nah, because look, again, you wouldn't ram my baby through the mud. I spent all this time getting it nice and pretty, and you just going. And in fact, I mean, it was an interesting experience, and in both cases, in fact, I need to go back and just say this briefly with the person with the reviews. I was a lot more frustrated with it because he was trying to poach him as a client overall, right? And he would create issues on the site. He also started becoming responsible for blog posts, and he wouldn't put the page titles and descriptions when he uploaded the blog post. So then he would run a report a week or two later and be like, "Hey, I noticed that you've got some page title and description errors." And for a while, I couldn't figure it out. And it wasn't until I looked at his report, because he also would not share the report, in fact. He would send a video of him reviewing a report. He would not send the actual report. He never sent the report. Or he would send screenshots of the stuff he talked about in the video of him reviewing the report. And I'm like, tell him to send you the actual report, man. He has it. If you can screenshot it, you can send it. And unless my client doesn't want it, they get a copy, right? Because I
Hmm.
ain't gonna hide. Even if things are bad, it's okay because that's a part of marketing, right? We got to be able to pivot. We got to be able to get things. We have to be able to right the ship. And again, it shouldn't be all good. Definitely shouldn't be all bad. But when the bad stuff comes up, you got to be able to work through it. So yeah,
Okay. There's a lot to unpack there. So I'm going to go
yeah,
back
yeah.
and we're going to walk through this because there is so many different things for so many different people that I want them to be able to get their piece so that they know what to be able to do with that. So, one, we started talking about the fact that someone stepped in, and matter of fact, let's start with the most recent and work our way back. So, when we're talking about earning trust and being able to work with different partners, one of the things that stood out in what you were breaking down is one, this person was taking videos and he wasn't actually giving you the reports. I can tell you as someone that decades worth of experience of being an account manager and knowing what reports need to be run, knowing what metrics we need to be able to show a client, from being on the publisher side where I knew we had to give the agency something and the agency I could give the agency metrics and say, okay, here's what's going on. And their thing is, no, 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 that doesn't align with the narrative that we sold the client on. So we need
Right.
you to change the metrics and change the report so that it aligns with what we're telling them. And in some cases, it's like, okay, but what you're telling them isn't what they're actually like. I remember the RFP. I remember what their goal is, and you're not actually addressing their goal. You're addressing how you're going to be able to extend that contract.
Hmm.
So it stood out to me when you said that. I also want to cover what happens where, if you do go out to someone else and you had someone who was stable that you could trust, and then that
Hmm.
new salesperson comes in or that new business comes in and tries to poach you away. I need to cover this part. What was it like when they came back? Were they still charged the same rate? Because if you had to fix and undo what they did, what was the experience and like for you, and what was the experience like for them? We heard what it was like for you, the extra work that they created, but what was it like for them? Because in my mind, I'm gonna have to charge you to undo the things that they did. So I want to cover that
Well,
part too.
to be fair, because we have the relationship that we have. Uh, he brought me back once he fired them. I didn't have to say anything. He said, "I'm gonna pay you more,"
Okay.
and he was paying them more. Right? He was already paying them more. So he's like, "I'm gonna pay you more because I realized the error in my ways." Right? But that was my intention anyway. Right? I was gonna tell him we got to up the price because he had the same price forever, and now I'm doing more work. Right? Because I got to undo some of this stuff. Um, but yeah, I think that definitely if someone breaks your trust, right? Because we also have a trust factor, right, as the agency. So if someone's willing to break your trust and go chase a shiny object, they should not be able to come back the same way that they left, especially if you have to fix their problems now, right? Because you've also created more value for yourself, to be fair, right? It isn't just, and if we're being twofold fair, there is a headache. There is a headache tax, right? Regardless of what
Mhm.
anyone wants to tell you. I mean, no matter if there's an industry where I can create my own price, whatever the industry is, there is a headache tax, right? Even when you think about it, I like to use mechanics as something comparable, right? Because
Mhm.
price of some things is just the price, right? Like you need spark plugs. There's a variety of different ones you can buy at AutoZone, but the labor, right? The headache is really what you pay for, right? Do they need to move stuff in order to get to it? Is it right in plain sight? That's essentially the same thing, right? Because yes, you are absolutely right. I'm just changing spark plug, but I gotta take the manifold off. I gotta do all these different things up under the engine. I mean, up under the hood that you don't know I gotta do for the 20 minutes of changing spark plugs that has to happen, and put it all back, right?
You have to know what you're taking apart and how to be able to put
Right,
it back together so it works the way it's
right.
supposed to work. Yes.
Yeah, so there is a headache fee, right? So I think that there's that part. Then the other part of it is again, you've created more value for yourself, right? So sometimes letting them wander can work out. I've had to speak to go back to the questions to ask when outsourcing, right? Especially when we're talking about SEO or one thing that I tell people all the time, you don't have to go with me, but just make sure you go with somebody that makes sense, right? I don't want to see you I don't want to see you 3 months from now and you're 7 grand in the hole, right? You done spent $7,000 somewhere and they've done nothing for you, right? Like I still want you to be able to walk away with some tangible information. So make sure as the client hiring the marketer or the agency, make them meet you where you are. And if they can't, then good. Let them go. You've gotten your proof. They don't like let them believe them for who they're showing you they are.
Yeah, there's no mistake in that. It also it I just while you were talking, I was thinking back to something that you said. When it comes to evaluating results, where you said the woman said, "Oh, well, I'm top such and such," and you had
Hmm.
to say, "Well, you're doing these searches yourself." We I want to cover that to a certain extent, like use an incognito window, please. Like
At least.
at least. At
At
least. And
least.
an incognito window, for those that don't understand what that is, it's basically saying, don't use my search history and all the information that you already know about me to
To curate
glean
results.
what kind of results that you're going to be able to show me. So
Because
if
that is the
someone
way
like
search works.
I am awful for search engines because I work with different clients. So they can't
Yes.
tell what it is that I like. because I'm constantly researching for all these different things. I could be researching for a talking point or a client that I'm working with, all these different things. So it's going to be harder for it to be able to judge me. So if I do a search, my search is going to be a little bit different. But if you specialize in something and you're constantly looking for ways to be able to improve what you're doing and all the rest of that, it's identified you as someone that is at least somewhat of experience level. And when you start to Google, if you're constantly going to different things that you do and things where you're named and all the rest of that, yeah, you're going to seem like you're ranked really high. But if you go into the
Yeah.
incognito window at the very least,
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
should give you a little bit better perspective of how it is for someone that doesn't know who you are. So
Hmm.
asking your friends to be able to look you up, not the
Or
same
private
as
browser.
having a stranger look you up. Yes.
Or private browser. That the incognito is a Google term. Private browser. Your
Thank
private
you.
browser. Yes,
Thank you. You
sir.
see expertise.
Now,
I
yes, your
wouldn't know to
private
say
browser.
that. Yes.
Now here's I'm gonna say three things to that.
Mhm.
All along with that. The first one is, um, well, you can edit, so I'm gonna say it this way, and you can keep it if you want to. Shout out to one of the
No
greatest
problem. We speak
presidents.
freely here.
Oh, okay, yeah. Shout out to one of the greatest presidents of our time, Barack Obama, was sharing the
Yeah.
fact that misinformation gets spread very easily because search engines give you what you want, right? They don't give you what you need; they give you what you want. Not that is not verbatim what he was expressing, but what he talked about was the fact that you end up in a groupthink model on search, right? That is how search works. So if you continue to look for information, whether it be right information or wrong information or misinformation, we'll say, you end up there, right? That is where you will end up. It's not just on social media where people always talk about it. It comes that way in search on your search engines. I don't let my I say desktop because I'm old, but my laptop browser track my location, right? I don't. Oftentimes I'm searching for stuff because I'm doing stuff for clients, and it's like, so can we use your location? No, figure it out. I'm
Same.
not. I don't need you to know my location because this isn't for me 90% of the time, right? So that's number one, right? Right. The Barack Obama piece. The other piece to it is proximity matters in search. So if you always search for your beauty salon at the beauty salon, you're going to come up first, right? Search for it the furthest from where you want your clients to come from and see if you come up first, right? So that's the other part too, right? Because proximity matters. And then the last piece to it, if you are the DIYer, more power to you. I don't knock the hustle at all. Um, I'm always willing to again give some of those tidbits. That's why I always walk away like, man, I should figure out how to. But the last piece to that I think is making sure that not just using the private browser, but also if you can't figure out the private browser and you don't quite understand what I mean by proximity, the people who don't live in your neighborhood that you know, ask them to search for you if they're in the same city and see what they come up with,
There you go.
and then you'll be able
There
to
you go.
do that. I'll make it a fourth one and say one keyword does not make your campaign. So she was specifically talking about one specific keyword, and I said yes, you may come up for that. I don't know, right? This is my first time hearing this term, but are you coming up for it in location, right? Are you coming up for it as massage therapist in Webster versus League City versus San Leon versus this one or that one, right? Like all those
Mhm.
things included.
One of the things that I realized in what you said is like I gave you the hair salon example of I was working with someone and she said, "Oh, well, I was ranked top 5, top 10, and this was the results that I was trying to get." What she was doing was she was working with someone that was paying to be able to get her into that spot. So the moment she stopped paying them, she dropped from top 10 to like 60th. And it's because she had no foundation under it to be able to do anything. So there are people that are paying to be in spots.
Hmm.
So yes, you may rank well, but you're paying to be in that spot. So you're not really ranking, you're running in an ad space, and those are different things. So ad
Right.
spaces, they have that sponsored section at the top of search engines,
Hmm.
and then they'll let you know. Well, now they have to let you know more so than they
Yes.
before. They'll let you know that this is a sponsored section, so you can't
Yes.
base it on that. You actually have to base it on what it looks like when someone does a regular search, what the average person might do when they're being introduced to you. So it's
Hmm.
a caveat that I wanted to make sure that we covered because you're covering it, but I also wanted to be able to give that as an
Mhm.
example because she swore up and down like I wasn't doing my job. And I'm like, well, you were paying him to get into that spot. I'm getting you the same level of customers and you didn't have to pay for any ads at all. So it brought me
Yeah.
back to, and it made me laugh when you said, I don't know anyone that ever says, I'm glad I stopped doing paid ads. Even if you can show them in on the organic side, like I can make you this money, they still think that paid ads is what's getting it to them. But
Yeah.
paid ads is an introduction. It says,
Mhm.
look at this. This is somebody that you might be interested in based on what it is that they might be searching or wherever they
Mhm.
landed and things like that. It's an
Mhm.
introduction, but how many people buy when they make an introduction? How many people date somebody because they met them that first time? Like you want to do a little bit of research. You want to do some kind of due diligence. Organic and online presence allows you to be able to be found for those follow-up questions. Like sometimes, you know, if we keep it on a relationship level for these people that are out here dating, yeah, you somebody says, well, give me your telephone number. No, what I'll do is I'll give you my Instagram. I'm older, like I didn't know anything about all of this stuff. And then I started to hear about it to go, well, what good does your Instagram like now I know I gotta actually look at stuff like that because I may see you in the daylight and you're this person, but then I go on Instagram and you got your cheeks out. And I'm going, whoa, see, now
Oh.
you're gonna have me out in the street where I gotta be protecting you and doing all like I need to know all of those things. So context matters. You want to make sure that you understand what you're getting yourself into. And it's the same with your business. So
Yeah.
don't just assume because you're in a sponsored spot that if you stop paying that day, that you're going to be able to stay there. And if you're paying to be in that spot, okay. But just make sure that you're doing the other things so that if you ever decided that your budget isn't something that you can continue to give that money towards, that you don't just disappear all of a sudden because that money
Mhm.
you got used to is a crutch because it was you paying for paid ads. What you want to be able to
Mhm.
do is get there so people know about you, start to get
Mhm.
customers, and then start to be able to find other ways to be able to have those conversations. I swear by paid ads and things like that are learning opportunities. Don't just have them pay for the ads. Have them teach you where they found them. Okay, so you clicked on an ad. Where'd you click from? What site were you on? What were you
Mhm.
doing? What conversation? Was it an article? What was the article?
Mhm.
Those
Mhm.
extra follow-up questions are going to allow you to be able to identify where to have those conversations with people for free.
Mhm.
And that's where I think small business owners struggle because a lot of people get in and they just jump straight to paid ads. And then they miss out on the opportunity of realizing that you could have been having that same conversation in a more meaningful way for free. So do your
Free.
paid ads, but make sure that you figure out where they're finding these people and what they're identifying as your ideal customer. So then this
Mhm.
way you can actually put the extra effort in and have those conversations yourself. I think people really missed the boat on that, and I wanted to cover that while we were talking through the parts that you were talking through. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think those are one things, multiple things that
Yeah.
one out of them. Find the one that works best for you, and then go with that. But yeah, I you definitely nailed it with me. It's going to give you what you want, not what you need.
Yep.
Like, it's gonna say, "I see your searches, and I see based on your searches, this is what you're interested in." It's not gonna say,
Most
"Well, you're
likely.
saying that, you know, you need a screwdriver, but really what you need are pliers." Like, it's not gonna give you that. It's you know, you have to know how to be able to search, and you have to be able to prompt it the right way to be able to get the results that you actually need. So if you're not being
Mhm.
intentional about it, if you're
Mhm.
not thinking about it beyond your own experience, it's gonna give you your search history, it's not gonna give you answers.
Right. 100%. 100%. That is the misnomer in search. Is
Mhm.
it's
Well, I wanted to make sure that we circle back to that because you mentioned that early on, and I was like, I got to bring that back up. But I said, you know what, let me wait until we get towards the that one thing that someone can do because if you don't do anything else, at least do that. So this way you can
yeah.
kind of gauge where you're at, and it's not just for you; it's so that you can see where your money's going. Because you can get these reports where they're showing you all these great metrics and all the rest of that, and if you do that search and you use the you use private or you use incognito or you have a friend that's outside the area, I'm the
Mhm.
same as you. When it searches for me and it's like, oh, do you want to use your location? No. If I go into search, it's looking for me to be in a different part of New York. Because when I do my searches, I need to make sure that it's giving me the real answer and it's not just giving me because you're in this area. It's a proximity thing. We're going to give you
Mhm.
these. So I think those are things that you can do as a starting point to really kind of figure out where you're at. I think it's a humbling thing if you use like brand mentions and those different things to kind of tell when you're being mentioned in articles and stuff like that. That was humbling for me because I remember getting one of those things and going, well, I know I'm putting a lot of work out there, so my name should be mentioned somewhere. And to realize, like, no, So
Who?
it put things in perspective to go, you know what, I need to start looking beyond what effort I know I'm putting into it and start looking at how is it being received. So
Hmm.
think about online presence as far as not just how much effort you're putting into it or how much you're paying to be able to get these things done. What experience are the people that don't know who you are or just learning about who you are? What's their experience? So gather that feedback, whether it's from paid ads or from having conversations with them. If you get on a networking call or if you get on a sales call, don't just, jump straight into it. How did you find me? What were you doing in that situation? It may seem like a weird question, but the more you start to find the commonalities between those things, those are threads that you can pull at to say, okay, well, if everybody was on this site or on this platform when they found me, maybe that's where I need to be and spend some of my time instead of being all these other places.
St. Louis for a while, and
Mm,
2 maybe 3 years ago, I get a phone call, and I asked that question because it was I think it was the St. Louis number. I don't remember where the number was from, and the lady said that she found me looking for black digital marketing agencies in St. Louis. I was living in Houston already, but it was important to know, right? And at every
yeah.
probably I get like one call like that a year, right, where someone is looking for something in St. Louis, and I still come up somewhere, right? So like again, it matters. It doesn't mean that I'm doubling down on the St. Louis effect, but I at least know that those things still exist, right?
Mhm,
And it's kind of the inverse effect where I'm like, I guess I was on to something, huh? Man, if I would have
mhm,
stayed, I guess I was on to something. That's what I when she does like, oh wow, that was a while ago. I haven't done anything with a St. Louis keyword, but my business profile used to be located in St. Louis. There was so many different things that I was kind of tailoring to St. Louis because that was where I was.
mhm.
But the same idea, right? Like again, knowing where people are finding you is super important.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we'll start to wrap it up with the win within. So, like, you're helping clients, you're identifying where how they learn best and what they want to learn versus what they don't really need to know. What are some of the results and how are you changing the trajectory of some of your clients? Like, I know you were able to get the RV client from 60s up into top 10. And
Mhm.
what are the effects of being able to do something like that? It's not just
Right,
being, I'm you change the ranking, but like what's the after effect of that? Like some
right,
people say,
right,
like, okay, well, your phone, like my phone, I didn't get any sales, but your phone rang. So
right.
the issue may not be that you weren't getting phone calls. Your issue could be what happens when you pick up the phone. So
Hmm.
it's fascinating to be able to kind of cover not just getting them there, but what are some
Yeah.
of the results that they're seeing and some of the things you might have identified to fill a void that they might not have even known was there.
So I'll use two clients. The first one being the RV part. I still don't know. There are times where he talks about the rankings as if they're not a direct cause of his occupancy rate, right? And
Mhm.
again, he's my guy, so I tease him about it all the time, right? Like one of my running jokes with him for a while was, "If only the SEO was working," right? It's like I tell him all the time, right? It's oh, if only the SEO was working, but for him specifically, it was occupancy, right? Because he needed a higher occupancy over a certain below a certain percentage. It doesn't cover his operation costs, right? So he needed occupancy. So we took him to the point where his lower times he's at like a 70% occupancy, and then there's a few times throughout the course of the year where there are some events where RV parks become a little more prominent, especially if you're going down to Galveston. His RV park is on the way, depending on where you're coming from. It's really
Okay.
easy way if you're coming through Louisiana, right? So um, he ended up being at 100% occupancy during some of those influxes because his normal, his average number was so much higher, right? So he ended up getting to the point where if he didn't hit 100, it was like 90, 95 or something like that, right?
Okay.
I think the other one that I would throw out there is probably the man. I got like three of them swirling around in my mind right now. I'm gonna
Well,
look
you can
over here
go
through
with all
sheet
three,
and
whatever you
see.
want to share.
Uh,
While you're thinking
I
about that,
want,
let me cover something. So you said
yeah,
that there are events,
yeah,
and if they know they're coming into town and that's on their way, probably would make sense to be keeping track of those events so that you can
He
tell when
runs
that
a
influx is going to be there
yeah,
and make sure that
and
you
he
have
runs a
that
discount.
occupancy.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and he runs a discount there. The Galveston hosts one of the biggest biker conventions in the country, and uh, his RV park is on the way. He's on the way to Galveston. Once you come, you can only come from the from the northern part and head south, and he's on the way. So he puts he it is something that we've done for years. Is around the convention. It's only about 3 or 4 days, but quite a few people stay at this RV park, right, and then just drive down to Galveston because of how close it is, or because of the proximity and the cost. As close as you get to Galveston, then you start getting into the vacation resort style
Hmm.
lux kind of pricing. But yeah, also making sure you pay attention to the events, right? Like right now is rodeo season, right? So depending on where you are in Houston, your business should be thriving because of rodeo season, right? Depending on what industry you're in. The other one I would say, I think we helped. I'll say a brick and mortar location, right? That was entertainment space. They're no longer a client just because I think they had they were just interesting. They have a lot of investors, and I think just the influence and the hive mind kind of pushed them in a direction. But we always had great results with them. They're located in a small town amongst a bunch of big towns. I mean, bigger cities, and the we got them like 7 months into them being open, and we were able to stick with them. I think for about a year and a half, I think it was,
Okay.
and we were able to help them to solidify themselves as the event space that they were. Right, like that was probably our biggest notable moment was because again they're in a small town, and the way it's very similar to New York, right? If you understand New York or Atlanta, right, where you be riding and you went through four different little mini cities and didn't even know it, right? And
Hmm.
they're at the very beginning of this specific city, but the city is only like maybe nine more blocks, right? So it's stupid. But you got to be able to know its locality in relation to everything else around it, right? Like they're in Kima. So you got to know League City, you got to know Seabrook, you got to know Clear Lake Shores, you got to know all these other places to be able to differentiate. And it was something that we worked on really hard with them during that time, especially during the first 6 or so months, to make sure that they started coming up for the right keywords and in the right location, right? So that's probably one of the other biggest ones. And again, when I say solidify, they're it's such a niche space that of course I don't credit it all because they also have amazing customer service in the place, right? Like
That
they've been
helps.
able to, yeah, they have amazing customer service. But that coupled with their ability to be found on the internet has helped them to stay afloat all this time, right? I just spoke to the owner not too long ago, so again, it wasn't even like it was bad blood or anything. They just pivoted in another
Hmm.
direction. I literally talked to her 2 days ago, but that's another one of the really cool ones because the RV park was already established and we were digging it out the mud. Whereas this one, it was brand new. You know, it was kind of a whisper, right? It didn't have a footprint, and we fought
Help
really
put them
hard
on
to
the
make
map.
sure that we helped them to be found and understood. And to speak to search, the name of their business is a golfing term, if I'm not mistaken. And
Okay.
right, and there's one in Oklahoma because someone else took the it's the same it's a golfing term and they called it this golfing term in Oklahoma or Dallas or something like that. And there's one other one somewhere else in like Nebraska, I kid you not. And or Iowa, something crazy like that. And they were so concerned about it, right? And I was like, well, I think we'll be okay, right? Because search doesn't work that way, right? Like that's just not. And they don't sell any online products, so like but when they were searching for their stuff, these are the things that came up. They were searching for the specific term. So again, even that stuff, being able to keep them educated and understand the way search works, and not to worry about things that are thousands of miles away just because the business name is similar.
Very important because that goes back to what you were saying with proximity. We talked about it, the flip side of it, of making sure that you understand your local area. But Just because someone sells you, or someone has a name that's similar to yours and they try to piggyback what you have, because it happens. Someone can
Mhm.
say, like, you know what, whatever it is that you're doing, I don't want to have to figure out it from the beginning. I just want to take what it is that you created and pull a little piece from it, and they can just add, a different spelling or different things to be able to try to get some of the extra business. But proximity is still going to kick back in if somebody's doing the organic search. So it's important to understand that. Yes, if someone's just looking at a name and it's in the area, then yes, that might be a bigger deal. But if it's far enough away, it's just a name.
It's just a name.
It
That's what
has
I had to
meaning
tell
to us because we
her.
came up with the name, and it,
Right.
sentimental value or whatever that may be. But
Mhm.
I can tell you when Shaquille O'Neal did something where he said he was helping minority owned businesses, and he did something where it was a similar name to my agency, Majority Media, and I started getting all these calls, and people were like, well, how do I get in and how do I get involved? And I was like, ma'am, I think you want the place in Atlanta. And they thought like I was just blowing them off. They were saying like, "Oh, well, I feel like you're being like the gatekeeper." And I'm like, "I can help you with what it is that you want help with, but that's not why you called me." So I'm going to answer the question that you wanted to be able to have answered, but that is one of those things where because the name was similar enough, it was something that ended up coming up. And I just got to the point where I learned enough about their business because I got tired of getting those calls so that I knew to say, you're probably going to want to speak to so and so. Like it got that bad because I got that many calls. So don't worry about the name as much. Understand what it is that that company does, because it can be something where they have the same name, but they're not doing the same thing.
Right.
And you may get penalized from it because they do things, but you can also benefit from it. So like you said, you still get some things from St. Louis. Like those are signs that you were doing something right. Figure out what you did there so that you can repeat some of that where you're at, if
Exactly.
possible, and then
Mhm.
be able to benefit from it there as well. So the name, it matters, but it doesn't necessarily matter unless it's something where it's proximity. Know what all the factors are so that you can weigh it against something. So proximity is going to be one of those things that matters when it comes to a name and a business, as well as what the townships and everything look like. Because if someone's saying, like driving instructions, I'm in this area, I need to be able to find something that does this. If you can come up within that search because you're on that path, then you're going to come up whether you're the best option in that area or not sometimes because you're the most convenient. So there's a lot of ways to be able to look at it. I am not the expert in it. I just know it to a certain extent because I know what I need to know enough to have the conversation. But this is why I wanted to have Wendell on because he could add more color to the things that I know and I may mention, but he can actually give you more specifics. And I'm gonna bring it back around to be able to say now that we've covered some of these things, there are going to be people that hear it and see this and want to have follow up questions and be able to reach out. Let's talk about some of the ways where people can find you, work with you, some of the things that you can do. I know you work with partnerships and collaborations. One of the beauties of being online is we don't have to be in the same state, the same area. It's really just a matter of having the same level of expertise and knowing how well to be able to work with each other. So let's talk about the agencies and things that you can work with, and then how people can find you if they just want help with their online presence in general.
Sure, man. Um, so agencies, I'll say we like them all, right? As long as if they're in the marketing space and they're already outsourcing their SEO services, we love to have the conversation. If their internal SEO needs some additional workers, we've done that as well, right? Partnered with agencies that are overwhelmed and need to be able to outsource some work. Um, and we work white label and then we'll also do like strategic partnerships. So we do a little bit of both. We always welcome those conversations. And when it comes to clients, our favorite clients are local clients, right? Clients that are, like you said, the townships, the communities. That was probably 80% of the conversation we've had today. Um, that is some of our favorite stuff. So if you're a home service provider, if you're the window treatments, if you're the hair salon, and you kind of trying to figure it out, by all means, we would love to be able to have those conversations on what locality means to you, right? Because that's kind of where that is where our conversation starts. Is you're local, but local to what?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Give me a roadmap. Give me something that I can say. Well, it's if you ever get lost someplace, I need something to be able to say, well, I see this. And it's like, oh, well, if you see that, or if you're over by this, then this is how you get back to where you need to be able to go. So understanding things like that actually make a big difference. Okay, so now what's the best way to get in contact with you? Is it going to be through your website? Where can people find you online? Is there a specific platform or anything that you spend more time on, or you will be spending more time on? Anything like that that you want to be able to share?
We spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. We post a lot on LinkedIn. We share a lot of information. I think that's the best place for people to reach me or reach us, because you can also get some tidbits and some tips, and be able to
Nice.
digest information and then ask questions as needed. Um, yeah, that would be the best place is LinkedIn.
Okay. Now, is it going to be a company page? Is it a profile? Give us
Yeah,
the name so
look,
that we can search
yeah,
for it. I mean,
yeah. So
we
so
we,
so
we
search
got
for
to give
me,
the
right?
keywords here too.
To search for me, right? So you search for Wendell Jordan, or you can search for Jordan Marketing Consultants, right? You get the business page. A lot of the information is parsed out on both sides, but we answer both. So if you look for Wendell Jordan or Jordan Marketing Consultants, you'll definitely get a wealth of information about SEO, local SEO. A lot of what we're pushing out right now is real estate centric, right? But again, if you reach out, regardless of your industry, we're definitely willing to have the conversation.
All right. Well, that sounds great. And one of the things that I know we covered, we tried to go really high level so that we can cover a lot of different things. So make sure that everyone got something from this. But what I want to be able to do is have you come back, and then we can really start to dig into the weeds and start to cover specific scenarios. So then this way, uh, people know to be able to tune in for those specific things. One of the things that I'm doing is this is the Strategic Thinkers podcast. I'm creating something, and I'll be setting it up. I'll have a conversation with you about it, about Coach's Corner, where that's where we can really get into the details and cover specific talking points and scenarios. And
That'd be
we'll
dope.
be able to take like some of the talking points from this and then go over there and say, okay, we talked about it, but now here's the things that you really need to know, and then kind
Hmm.
of walk them through it in a way that makes sense to them. So I'll have a conversation with you about coming in to do that and make sure that we can cover those follow-up questions and make sure that people can take action. But this is a great starting point, and I thank you so much for your time. You've been incredibly generous. I'm going to stop it here, so then this way we don't overwhelm people more than we might have already have. But I think we kept going back to specific points to allow people to be able to get that takeaway. And I'll
Yes,
also
sir.
drop the takeaway in the notes and everything for the podcast, and then any of the social media posts that I put out there. But we're going to clip some things, and we're going to make it easier for people to get the nuggets that they can kind of take away to be able to take action. But for the main thing, I think you've covered a lot of the touch points, a lot of the questions that people may have about online presence. They might not have understood SEO, but now they understand proximity. They
Hmm.
understand who they're outsourcing to. They have a better understanding of vanity metrics, which is just another way of them saying, I'm going to show you all the things that make us look good, and I'm going to avoid all the things that might make us look like we got more work to do and we might not be doing our job. And that's a really good starting point for people that are just trying to figure it out and learn more about it.
Yes,
So,
sir.
I will cut it there, but I will say, do you have anything that you wanna leave us with?
Be on the lookout for lunch and learns wherever you are. Sometime at some point in the near future, we'll be able to do them hopefully virtually. We're doing a lot of them in the greater Houston area currently, and I'll definitely keep you abreast as they continue to get at it, so that we could we can cross promote.
Please, please. Okay,
Yes, sir.
nothing left for me to be able to add to that besides like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Strategic Thinkers Podcast. Remember, when you can make the inconvenient convenient, people are willing to pay you for the experience. The better the experience, the more they'll not only pay you, but help others pay you. Serving as brand champions. My name is Sean Atkinson, and I'm wishing you well on your journey to your definition of success. If you find this podcast interesting, helpful, worth a listen, like, share, and subscribe. Leave a positive review so people know to check it out, and I'll see you next time.